In the summer of 1941, as Nazi forces surged across Eastern Europe, panic gripped the Kremlin. Operation Barbarossa had begun. Hitler's betrayal of Stalin shattered the uneasy Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and the Soviet High Command feared the worst. Moscow could fall. Deep beneath the surface of that chaos, an elite unit was given an unmarked task: move the Soviet state treasury's gold reserves from Moscow to Kazan, 800 kilometers east. The gold, estimated at over 2,500 metric tons, was to be transported by a heavily guarded train convoy under the cover of night. The convoy departed on a humid July evening. A dozen black locomotives, each with reinforced cargo compartments and flanked by armored vehicles, rolled out from a secret depot near the Kremlin. Soviet intelligence operated in total silence. No radio transmissions, no markings. Only handwritten instructions delivered via sealed envelopes to the officers on board. But somewhere between the industrial city of Gorky and the Volga River bend near Kazan, the train vanished. Kazan's rail yards prepared for the arrival in grim silence. The NKVD, the feared Soviet secret police, secured the terminal and cleared the tracks. Rumors of the approaching treasure convoy spread among the local soldiers, though no one spoke of it openly. Hours passed, then a day, then two. Radio silence continued from Moscow, as expected, but the train never appeared. By the third day, the silence was broken by a coded message from the Kremlin. Has the cargo arrived? The reply: no sign of the convoy. Panic set in at the highest levels of Soviet command. A treasure that could finance the war effort for years, simply gone. Not derailed, not delayed, vanished. And in Stalin's USSR, that kind of failure had consequences. Lavrenti Beria, head of the NKVD, ordered an immediate search. Entire divisions combed the railway lines. Bridges, tunnels, and depots were inspected. No wreckage, no blood, no sign of sabotage. Not even rail marks where such a massive train would have passed. It was as if the entire convoy had dissolved into thin air. Over 300 personnel who had knowledge of the mission were interrogated. Some disappeared. Others were executed on suspicion of treason. Still others claimed the train had reached the vicinity of Arzamas before it faded. Like a mirage, one guard reportedly muttered under duress. There were whispers among soldiers of a flash of light in the woods and a sound like thunder without clouds. But these were dismissed until geologists noticed something strange near a remote stretch of forest. Scorched trees, magnetized rocks, and elevated radiation. Outside the town of Sarov, deep in the Mordovian forest, a strange patch of land became the focus of NKVD interest. Locals were forbidden to approach. Barbed wire went up. Watchtowers followed. Decades later, declassified Soviet memos would refer to this area only by code name Zone 13. In 1941, the NKVD cordoned off the site for investigation. Scientists, geologists, and physicists were quietly flown in from Leningrad and Moscow. What they found defied explanation. A circle of forest, roughly 300 meters wide, where plant growth was stunted. Metallic objects lost magnetic orientation, and compasses spun aimlessly. Some claimed to see brief pulses of heat shimmer in the air, as if reality was fractured, like looking through water. soil samples revealed isotopes not found in the region. One scientist, in his final field note, wrote, "Localized rift activity detected, possible temporal displacement." He was never heard from again. Even in the secretive Soviet state, whispers circulated. Was it a Nazi ambush using advanced technology? Had a saboteur redirected the convoy? Or had the train passed through a kind of dimensional rupture? A few Soviet physicists quietly speculated about Einstein-Rosen bridges, what modern science calls wormholes. The idea, once theoretical, was revived in 1935. Could intense magnetic conditions, perhaps triggered by natural underground anomalies or wartime interference, have briefly torn open a spatial rift? If so, the train may not have derailed, but rather passed into another space entirely. While publicly dismissed, the concept found interest in the most secret sectors of Soviet science. Decades later, in 1992, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, a CIA memorandum surfaced through a Freedom of Information Act request. The subject? Project Mirage, temporal displacement in Soviet military logistics. The report referenced a Cold War-era analysis of the missing gold convoy, obtained through defectors and intercepted communications. One paragraph stood out. Unconfirmed reports suggest the 1941 Moscow-Kazan gold convoy disappeared in a region now identified by Russian military as Zone 13. High radiation anomalies and magnetic disruptions suggest exposure to energy phenomena beyond conventional understanding. Potential temporal or spatial displacement event. American interest was piqued not by the gold, but by the possibility of a natural or induced rift, something that could explain other global anomalies, including missing aircraft and vanishing personnel in war zones. In the spring of 1985, decades after the convoy disappeared, an aging railway inspector from Kazan claimed he saw a train appear, just for a few minutes, on an abandoned track leading into the forest. According to his report, the train was old, black, and unmarked. It moved slowly, silently, through the early fog. Its windows were empty, no passengers, no crew, and then it vanished. Soviet officials dismissed the report as hallucination, but shortly after, a second report surfaced, this time from a border patrol unit near the Ural Mountains. Their surveillance equipment detected a brief spike in electromagnetic radiation, followed by a radar signature consistent with a moving train. Again, there were no tracks in the area. These accounts were never verified, but they sparked renewed interest within Soviet military science circles. Among villagers in Mordovia and Tatarstan, stories of the ghost train of Kazan became local legend. Some claimed it passed only during thunderstorms. Others said it emerged once every 10 years, always near midnight, always silent. One tale spoke of a man who entered the train and was never seen again. A few even believed the gold was cursed, that Stalin's greed had triggered a cosmic punishment. In some folklore, the train had become trapped between worlds, doomed to repeat its journey in a loop outside of time. Anthropologists studying the region noted similarities between these stories and ancient Eurasian myths of disappearing caravans and silver roads to the sky. Could these be echoes of older beliefs in portals or hidden realms? Modern physicists remain skeptical, but intrigued. While there is no accepted proof of interdimensional rifts, some theorize that specific geological or electromagnetic conditions especially in tectonically active regions, could cause temporary disruptions in space-time. Russia's vast landscape is rich in magnetic anomalies, fault lines, and natural uranium deposits, all ingredients that, under the right conditions, could interact in unpredictable ways. Though far from mainstream science, the concept of time slips is occasionally revisited in theoretical physics, particularly in quantum gravity studies. Some researchers suggest certain regions could act like bubbles, where the rules of reality behave differently, however briefly. Was Zone 13 one of these bubbles? According to post-Soviet leaks, the KGB resumed investigations into Zone 13 in the late 1970s under a program called Operation Solstice. Declassified fragments mention persistent chronal interference, auditory hallucinations, and the need for temporal containment. One chilling entry in a field agent's journal reads, "We hear train whistles at night, but no tracks are here." One man followed the sound. He has not returned. Another internal memo speculated whether the gold and its armored escort might one day return, but altered, distorted, or perhaps centuries from now, somewhere else entirely. The Soviet gold convoy, if intact, would be worth billions today. Some say it still exists, just not here. Treasure hunters have attempted to reach the old route. Most are stopped by modern Russian authorities. Others get lost in the forest, guided only by legends and unreliable maps. A few claim to have seen lights or felt watched. The Russian government remains silent. Zone 13 is still restricted. The rail lines are overgrown, but satellite imagery shows faint impressions of something circular, man-made, or a scar left behind. The gold may never be found, but the mystery has become something greater, a window into the unknown edges of physics, folklore, and fear. The 1941 disappearance of the Soviet gold convoy is more than just a cold case. It's a crack in the timeline of war, politics, and science. A ghost story told in steel and silence. A national secret buried beneath frost and bureaucracy. A moment when the world might have torn just a little. And perhaps somewhere in another time or another dimension, a black train still travels toward Kazan, loaded with treasure, never quite arriving, and never truly gone. You've just explored another mystery with JB Animated Mysteries. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And turn on notifications so you never miss a story where facts and fiction collide. Until next time, the truth is out there. Keep looking.